Hey guys, Christian here, and today we're going to talk about the best class in Phase 1, and I know this is subjective, and I know it's not going to come as a shock to you who I'm going to pick, but I do want to discuss why, and I also want to discuss some quote-unquote honorable mentions. So, obviously, the best class, in my opinion, for Phase 1 was Druid. And it's not like I'm pulling this just because it's my class, it's my favorite class, but also because it's kind of a really good class. So it's the only class in the game that can tank, DPS, and heal successfully. Yes, I know that we may not be the top DPS when it comes to feral and balance, but we still are decent, and we bring enough utility that I think we justify a position there. Obviously, we're never going to top the hunters and the warlocks, but we still are there. As far as healing goes, I think priests probably won Phase 1 if we're talking about just healing, but I think Resto Druids were right behind them as number 2, or in a lot of fights, number 1 healing, because they're just such good main tank healers that I don't think you could argue that a Druid is a bad healer. I don't think you'd win that argument. Obviously, shamans have advantages, priests have advantages, and paladins have advantages, but I think Druids are a solid healer. And then as far as tanking goes, there was a big discussion that everyone knew that Druid tanks were going to become really good in the later phases. But nobody really knew when that swap would happen where warriors would become less used and feral druids would take over. And it turns out it was Phase 1. I mean, if you look at, let me switch over, I don't know if I have it pulled up still, but if you look at Warcraft logs, this is Gruul, and then here's Magtheridon. As you can see, if it loads, Druids have already taken over as tanks. They are the go-to tank for these fights, and not only that, they are the top tanks. This is parse order. I mean, these are the numbers that they're showing. Obviously, for the cheese mechanic of High King Mulgore, you're going to see the shield guys up ahead. But for the real fights, and no offense to High King Mulgore, you see ferals, and I think it's important that we recognize that feral druids are now kind of the go-to tank when it comes to raiding. Obviously, some honorable mentions, paladins. If you've never raided with a paladin, you've probably hated yourself because paladins make every raid so much easier. And not even just raids, 5-mans. If you run a 5-man with a paladin, it's probably a lot less stress on you. Maybe not on the healer, in the heroics, but as far as the DPS with threat, it's less of a worry. And that's a really cool thing to have, is a class that is just excelling in a specific way, but really well. They are a great AoE tank. I would not run SSC without one paladin tank. It would be a nightmare. It would be doable, just very hard. I also want to give a shout out to hunters and warlocks. I mean, everyone kind of saw this coming, but they are top DPS. You know, they're, especially if you know how to play your class well, you're top pumpers. Another shock is mages. Mages went arcane really early, and the numbers are really kind of bagging them up on this. Obviously, fire mages and frost mages are still, in existence, but you're starting to see a lot more arcane mages that are showing some solid numbers. So yeah, I don't want to forget about that. And then I'm trying to think if there's anything. Just shaman, I guess I should just say. Shaman in general. The utility that shaman bring to the game is unparalleled. They are such a great class to have. Even if you have an under-geared shaman, it still makes them worthwhile bringing because of their utility. But at the end of the day, if we're talking about, what class is the best class, obviously I'm biased, but my opinion is the Druid. I would love to hear your comments on what class you think is the best in Phase 1, specifically Phase 1, guys. Obviously, at the end of it, we're going to, do a big discussion on, who won TBC kind of thing. Spoiler, I think I already know who it is, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. But talk about Phase 1, who you think was the best, or maybe what made other classes really strong that we either didn't see coming, or even if we did, but just to an extent that we didn't realize how helpful that was going to be. If you like this kind of content, please subscribe. I put out videos all the time about, mostly about Druids, but about all kinds of cool content. So feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care.